Yes. Huang Wan replied, and took the congealing void pill from Yang Kai's hand, carefully put it away, with a sense of emotion in her heart. 2 months ago, she was still struggling for a living. She couldn't even buy a 100th spirit pill. But now, not only does she live in the beautiful High Heaven sect, but she also has no worries about cultivation resources. Heaven-defying things like 10,000 years incense and 9-curve crystal jade tree that could help break through is also available for use. In comparison, it's like hell in heaven. Huang Wan couldn't believe that she could have such a life every day. Her gratitude to Yang Kai grew stronger. After all, if Yang Kai hadn't brought her back, she couldn't even imagine how it would end up for her in Linyunair. Sect Master called his subordinates to come this time. Do you have any instructions? Huang Wan looked at Yang Kai respectfully. Yang Kai smiled slightly, did not answer, but turned to look at Xian. Since Huang Wan brought Linyunair to this place, Xian has been observing the little girl, and the powerful spiritual mind shrouded Linyunair silently, seeming to have noticed something. The beautiful eyes burst out a look of surprise. What did the great elder find? After waiting for a while, Yang Kai asked. Xiyun nodded lightly and waved to Linyunair. Come here, little girl. It's strange, although Xian has a serious expression and meticulous expression, Linyunair is not afraid of her. Hearing the call, she only hesitated for a while, and obediently walked to Xian and stood still. Don't be afraid. Xian burst into a smile, stretched out her jade hand to hold Linyunair's wrist, and then the Saint Chi surged poured into Linyunair's body, and probed carefully. As time went by, the expression on Xian's face became more and more weird and wonderful. After a long while, she took a deep breath, let go of Linyunair, her eyes revealed a surprise color. Huang Wan stood there in fear. Watching Xian nervously, she didn't know if she found out anything wrong. Since Yang Kai told her about Linyunair's weirdness that day, Huang Wan has also paid attention to it, and found that, as Yang Kai said, Linyunair's small body actually contained a completely huge power, different compared to her age and size. This power is a pure physical body strength. Huang Wan didn't know if Linyunair had some strange disease. After coming to High Heaven sect, she also asked several elders, but no one could give a clear explanation. Seeing Xian now seeming to be thinking of something, she immediately pinned her hopes on her. After all, it is rumored that this great elder was the Sect Master of Star Emperor Mountain back then. She was very knowledgeable, but she didn't know why she left Star Emperor Mountain and lived a secluded life, and she didn't know why she stayed in High Heaven sect after suddenly coming out to the world again. Great Elder, Yunair. Seeing Xian's delay in speaking, Huang Wan became even more nervous. Don't worry. Xian let out a relief, and said lightly, the little girl is fine, but the physique seems a little weird. Special physique? Yang Kai's eyes lit up. Yes, otherwise, it is difficult to explain why the strength of blood and energy in her body is so strong. But I don't know what kind of physique she really has. I have to look through the ancient book to find out. Xian frowned slightly. Yang Kai nodded lightly, which coincided with his own judgment. He also guessed that Lin Yun'er's physique was special. Although the special physique is so rare and hard to see, it does not mean that there is no special physique in the world. Yang Kai has encountered the spiritual medicine holy body of little sister Shan Ning Chang, the poisonous widow physique of the seductive queen Shan Qingluo, and the dragon marrow phoenix body of Xueyue. All belong to the category of special physique. Special physique, born with all kinds of incredible magical effects. For example, Xia Ning Chang's spiritual medicine holy body can give her better alchemy skills and standards than anyone else. Her alchemy is an instinct that does not require others to teach, and can use alchemy to improve her own cultivation. As for what kind of physique Lin Yun'er really has, no one knows, but her physique makes her power so strong, thinking it should be related to combat. Yang Kai looked at her as if looking at a piece of uncut jade. The little girl is so young. The body is so thin, and she has that kind of power. If she really grows up, if he compares her strength, she might be beyond the reach of the monster race that has always been known for their physical fitness. Great Elder, there is nothing left for you to do. Why not take an apprentice to teach? Not only can resolve loneliness, but there will be people who will pay respect in the future, and it will be like killing two birds with one stone. Yongkai suddenly said with a smile. Xian glanced at him, and said lightly, "It turns out that the Sect Master called the little girl over to me is for this?" Yongkai laughed, and said calmly, "You also know what's going on in our sect now. Other than you, no one else can do anything. The little girl has a special physique. If I ask others to teach, it will only mislead the children. Leaving her to Great Elder will give me some peace of mind." Hearing what Yongkai said, Huang Wan's eyes lit up, and she immediately pleaded. Although she couldn't bear to be separated from Lin Yunair, she knew what level she was. Lin Yunair followed her own practice. Naturally, it is not as good as Xian's. For the sake of the little girl's future, Huang Wan would naturally not mind the short separation. What's more, the Great Elder has always lived in High Heaven sect, and it's not like she and Lin Yunair will not have the opportunity to meet. She and Yongkai said this. Xian smiled bitterly and gently rubbed her forehead and said, "If I refuse in one bite, does it seem too unkind? Subordinates don't dare. If the Great Elder have difficulties, I won't dare to force them." Huang Wan was terrified. "Hey," Xian sighed, "it's not that this palace master is unwilling to accept her as a disciple. It's just that the little girl has a special physique. Before I figure out what her special physique is, the skills I have mastered may not be suitable for her. But it's okay with a little guidance." Huang Wan is overjoyed. However, it depends on her own meaning. Xian smiled slightly, looked at Lin Yunair with a pleasant face, and lightly opened her lips. "Yunair, would you like to practice by my side?" "Yes." Unexpectedly, Lin Yunair replied crisply without even thinking about it. Xian was taken aback, and said, "Why?" "Because you seem to be very powerful," Lin Yunair said with her head tilted. Yongkai and the others couldn't help but laugh. Although the little girl was not familiar with world affairs, she also had her own intuition, and she could see which of the three had the highest cultivation level. Pretending to be dignified, Xian said solemnly, "It will be very hard to stay with this palace master. If you don't practice well, this palace master will beat and scold you, do you know? Yunair will practice hard and won't let you beat and scold me." "Okay." Xian nodded in satisfaction. "From today, you will stay in Beiwahu." Seeing Xian's promise, Huang Wan's eyes filled with excitement, and she thanked her. Xiyun waved her hand and said, "I'm just giving instructions on her cultivation, not accepting disciples. Please write down this point to the Sect Master. Subordinates, remember, Yunair can get pointer from the Great Elder is also a blessing. It doesn't matter whether she accept her as disciples or not. Well, if it's okay, you don't have to come to Beiwahu. I will let Yunair take the initiative to visit you." Xian urged, and immediately looked at Yongkai. "Sect Master, if it's okay, please go back." Another chasing order. Yongkai looked depressed, touched his nose, and stood up. He did not wait for Huang Wan, who was saying goodbye to Lin Yunair with tears, and left alone. 5 days later, in the Space Law Formation Palace that belongs to High Heaven outside Flowing Flame Sand Field, light flashed. Yongkai appeared from the center of the magic circle, and without saying anything to the disciples guarding here, he sacrificed a star shuttle to the sky, and soon disappeared. Now that High Heaven sect has settled down, and there is nothing to worry about in the sect, he has to prepare for the voyage. 20 or 30 years have passed since he entered the star territory. Everything on the Tongshuan continent has made him worry, and now he has avoided King Grade worship in High Heaven sect, so he wants to go back to Tongshuan continent. Of course, if possible, he would also like to find Su Yan and Shan Qingluo in the way. Many people were waiting for him, and he couldn't stay in Shadowed Star forever. But before that, he must raise some training resources. After all, this voyage may not be a year or two journey. The High Heaven sect does not have any contact with the outside world, and all kinds of training resources cannot be self-sufficient forever. Before leaving, Yangkai wants to left the sect and disciples with plenty of supplies. Saint Crystal is convenient, but he don't have to worry. There is already a Saint Crystal vein on the second layer of flowing flame sand field, which is rich in reserves, enough to be used for thousands of years without worrying, but the pill is relatively rare. Although Yangkai was an alchemist, he couldn't refine too many spirit pills at once, so he could only buy some storage. Based on this consideration, Yangkai didn't choose to use the space law formation, but instead entered the city when he encountered one, to buy things like spirit pill wonderful medicine. The direction he was heading was Shadow Moon Palace. Before the voyage, Yangkai certainly wanted to invite Qiantong and Feiji too. They had expressed the intention to take a sailing boat a long time ago, but Yangkai hadn't determined it at the time, so he never gave a reply. Now that even the people of Clean Sky Sect have been given a place, Shadow Moon Palace will not be left behind by Yangkai. After all, after coming to the Shadowed Star, Qiantong takes care of him a lot, and the friendship between Feijitu and himself is not bad. If he leave them without saying anything, that would be too unreasonable. At the same time, on the vast plain to the east of the Shadowed Star, a towering giant city stands here, stretching thousands of miles away, and in the center of the city, there are many exquisite and huge palaces lined up in rows. Here is the rudder of the Battle Sky Union, Battle Sky City. In a palace in the city, two people are discussing important matters. One of them is an old man with a beautiful face, and the other is a burly middle-aged man. If Yangkai were here, he would definitely recognize that the old man was the great elder of the Battle Sky Union, Xiaosheng, who had practiced the Space Force secret technique just like him. At this moment, this prestigious great elder was respectful when facing the middle-aged man. The identity of this person is also ready to emerge. Kujung, the Sect Master of the Battle Sky Union. To be continued.